For my first YouTube video, I will show you a full edit right after the intro. Hi guys, and welcome to my first YouTube video. Today I'm going to show you how I edit photos and what exactly I do in Photoshop. I'm going to walk you through it, and we're going to go through every single detail together. So hopefully you can pick up on some ideas, details, and stuff that I usually do with every photo. Before we even start, I would just like to thank a few people that made this possible or inspired me in some way. First of all, and probably the most important one, would be Mo Zainal, or you probably all know him as Action Scripter. Mo pretty much covered everything that is necessary with Adobe Photoshop, car photography, editing in general, and I'm not sure if I can show you anything new, but I could definitely show you a different approach, or maybe explain more into detail, because Mo's tutorials are a little bit more like a next level, kind of a more experienced users. He doesn't go through every single detail, but if you really want to learn about car photography, you should definitely check his channel. He's a really cool guy, and he helps me whenever I need some help. So thank you, Mo. Kirk Bentley from Australia, a friend of mine that taught me everything about automotive light painting, has a channel as well, and he is the one who actually inspired me to do this YouTube channel. He is the one who made me start it. So thank you, Kirk. And I know you're busy with work and all that, but hopefully we can work together, and maybe we can do some tutorials together on this channel. Last but not least, Ivano. Most of you know him as Evog on Instagram. He is one of my favorite photographers and editors, and he is the one who helps me no matter when I send a message, no matter when I need help. He replies, and he's an awesome guy. And he lives in New York here as me, just like me. So thank you, Ivano. Thank you for everything. You're a really awesome guy, and please check him out. Check his Instagram. I'll leave a link below, and I'm sure you're gonna be inspired by some of his stuff. All right. Before we start, I just want to make sure you all understand that English is not my first language, so I'm probably gonna be making some mistakes. So if there's something you don't understand, please leave a comment below, or I'll definitely respond. It happens, I'm sorry. All right, let's get started. So as you can see, we're gonna edit the photo of my car today, and this is something that I do very often. I post mostly my car on my Instagram page, and what I do usually is I import my photos to Lightroom, and select the photos that I like. I flag them with this little flag and import it in Photoshop. I import usually 2, 3, 4, sometimes 6, and with light painting up to 30 layers. I use the CPL filter, so I rotate it and get different exposures for parts of the photo that I really like, and I use specific things in every layer. First thing that you need to do is select the photos, figure out which ones you like, of course. flag them, and then select them with control and click, and as soon as you select them, you do right click and edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. Once you get there, it should look like this. I selected 2 for this tutorial. I wanted to make it easy and simple and quick. Once you get them in your Photoshop, first thing you're going to do is select all layers, go to edit, and auto align layers. Select the auto, click OK, and depending on how fast your computer is, it's going to align those photos. It takes usually, for me, it takes like 10-15 seconds. It can take up to half an hour. I've seen it. So next thing you're going to do is you want to see what you like from each photo. So for example, from this layer is where I believe that the car looks the best. I'm going to show you. It's basically every detail is visible, and the exposure is, I'm not going to say perfect because the grill is a little bit dark, but I didn't like the brighter exposures, so I used this one. I'm going to use this one. So when you figure out which layer is your car layer, name it car layer, and that's going to be your base layer. I mean, that's how I work. Everyone has different methods. So this is going to be my base layer and my car layer, and this is where I start. This is from where I start. Next layer is nothing much different. There's no crazy details in this layer that I wanted to put and wanted to keep, except as you can see, my turn signal is full, and the city and the background is a little bit darker, which I don't know, I like it. Everything that I need just in camera raw if we need to bring out some details, but when it comes to masking out, blending 2 layers, these are the 2 I want to use today, because I just want to make it simple, right? So second layer I'm going to name turn signal and city. Alright, so let's start masking. You're gonna click on the second layer above the car layer, and you're gonna make a mask, white mask. You're gonna use a black brush, opacity and flow to 100%. You're gonna make it a little bit smaller, and you're gonna start bringing out the car. The easiest way for you to see what you're masking, what you're bringing out, is if you press the backslash key, and then you're going to see what's actually happening. You don't have to be super precise. It's not light painted shot, so this can be pretty quick. Alright. Yep. Hood. If If this was a light painted shot, I would definitely use the pen tool, but in this case it's not that important. Alright, I'm just gonna detail it a little bit. Here. I think that's fine. Alright, press the backslash key again, and the turn signal, I want to bring it back. I'm going to switch to the white brush and bring back the turn signal. There you go. So this is what we have. The city is a little bit darker, as you can see. The car is from this exposure, the first layer, and we brought back the turn signal. Alright, next thing you're going to do is put this all on one layer. So what you're going to click on PC is Control Alt Shift and E. I'm not sure how you do it on the Mac, but I use a PC, so maybe I'll put this in the description. So now we have a base layer, two layers connected, and I'm going to call it base layer. And right away I'm going to make a copy of it with Control J. And I'm going to call this layer Camera Raw. In Camera Raw, I'm going to use the Camera Raw filter and bring out some details and maybe do some color correction and similar stuff. So you click on the Camera Raw, clarity, maybe sharpness and contrast, we'll see how it goes. In Camera Raw filter, first thing that I do is click on the transform tool and I level the photo. So now it's straight. It used to be like this, but I'm not sure even. Yeah, it's definitely straight, as you can see here. Yeah, watch the building. Before, after, before, after. Alright. So the photo is straight right now. So I'm gonna go back to my basic adjustments. And I'm gonna raise the temperature a little bit. Maybe +8. I'm gonna give it some contrast. Let's say 10. Highlights, let's see, maybe, yeah, you can bring down the highlights a little bit. I'm gonna bring the highlights in the sky with graduated filter. So I'm gonna do that later. I can bring out the shadows a little bit. Let's see. Maybe 30. Whites. Yep. Just a little bit, 20. Texture. Generally, I don't use it. Sometimes, maybe. I use it with light painted shots, but natural light, not that much. We can see what changes when you use it. Maybe a little bit. Let's keep it at 10. 11, it's alright. And then the clarity. It's everybody's favorite. Don't ever overdo it. say 29 is enough. You can click here and see before and after. He gave some sharpness to it. Alright, dehaze, depending on your exposure and everything, maybe bring it out to +6. Oh, that's just in case of this photo. Vibrance and saturation I generally don't touch because I use LUTs at the end of the photo. So maybe a little bit of vibrance. I'll leave it at 10. 8. Sharpening. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to sharpen a little bit here because I usually sharpen my photos in Photoshop, but you can do it here as well. I want to make sure that I only sharpen the car. So what you're going to do is press the key Alt and mask out everything else. And let's keep it here. So what's going to happen here is you're going to sharpen only those white lines. If you leave it here, you're going to sharpen the whole photo basically. But if you drag it all the way down, up, you're going to be focusing only on lines, which is kind of important. Amount, I never tend to do too much. Let's say 31. And what I usually add is luminance, so I reduce the noise. Noise usually has to be close to the sharpness number. Let's see, I'm not sure if you can see this, but I'm gonna keep it here, 24. Alright. Next thing I'm gonna do is colors, maybe yellow. Maybe darken it a little bit yellow and give it some more saturation. And oranges. See, I'm going to darken it a little bit. Bring it out to saturation. That's decent. Alright. That's it. Then we go to the graduated filter. You're gonna reset the previous settings that you had if you worked on it, and I'm gonna bring it from the top to, let's say, half. Sorry, maybe here, and I'm gonna bring down the highlights just a little bit, and maybe the exposure. Let's see how it looks like. Alright, I'm gonna add some clarity. Keep it at 19, and maybe some noise reduction at 10, a little bit darker. Alright, I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom. Actually, I won't. I'll do that in Photoshop. I'll show you why. Because generally I'm obsessed with these shadows, and I hate ruining the shadows. So graduated filter in this case, at least for me, won't do much. Alright, I think that's it. When it comes to camera raw, I don't do much there, as you can see. Yeah, it looks good. I think it does. Cool. Click OK. And now you have camera raw on a single layer. Camera raw filter. There you go. Next thing I'm going to do is copy this layer and I'm gonna call it cleanup. On this layer I'm gonna use various tools like clone stamp tool, patch tool, spot healing brush to remove all the reflections and stuff that I don't like on the photo. So let's do the car first. I'm gonna bring out, on the right click here, I'm gonna bring out the patch tool, which is my favorite. I'll explain why. Patch tool, what patch tool does is like removes reflections and all that, but keeps the same exposure from wherever you. So I have to show you in order to understand. So let's say let's select this reflection here, and no matter where you move it, whether it's a dark area or bright area, the patch tool is going to adjust the exposure of whichever area you bring back in. So for example, I'm going to keep it here, and it's going to basically completely disappear. But what I wanted to show you is that if you brought it back into this area, it wouldn't do much. I mean, it would do the same thing. Maybe a little bit of blemishes here. But the patch tool keeps the same exposure basically, which is why I really like this. Tool. It keeps the same exposure and doesn't mess with the saturation or anything like that. So for me, patch tool will be definitely the #1 tool for removing reflections. What you also need to make sure is that the patch tool has the right settings. For example, source and destination. Click on the source. Patch normal, pattern, diffusion 5. Yeah, just make sure that it's set to source. For example, you cannot fix these little angles here, so if this is left, I use a clone stamp tool. I bring down the flow to, let's say, 10%, current and below. I press the Alt key, select, and I remove the little white spots. Same thing here. Yep. Alright. This one. Okay. Go back to patch tool. This one is super dark. This one is a little bit difficult. Bring back the patch tool. Select a little bit bigger area. Looking much better right now. Could be better. Let's see if I can fix it. Bring the flow up. I think that's fine. Awesome. So this is basically how I remove reflections. I'm going to do this with every reflection that I see because I really don't like reflections. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit so I don't waste our time here. Alright, let's say that the car is clean. These big ones on the side here, it's doable. I can do it, but it's super time consuming, so I'm gonna leave this out. I'm just gonna use the spot healing brush for some small details in here, like these little spots. Or maybe something on... No, that's basically it. Yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to the car. Next thing that I'm gonna remove, and that's definitely time consuming, but I cannot see it. I don't like it. I'm gonna remove all these parking lines. So I'm speeding up the video again. Alright, I think that was a pretty decent job. I also kept the lens flare, as you can see. Now when you have your distractions removed, you might, I don't want to make it more complicated than this. When you have your distractions removed, next thing you're going to do is make another copy of the layer. And what I want to do here is I'm going to add a little touch to the photo, and that's some smoke, because I like 70% of photos I add some smoke, and it's a pretty cool little detail that gives some life to the photo. Also, it kind of makes sense because this photo was taken in early AM, and it was a little bit foggy. I didn't manage to catch the fog, but I'm gonna add it. So you're gonna call this layer smoke. Actually, you're not even gonna have to make a copy of the layer. You're just gonna open a blank layer like this, and you're gonna go to the brushes, and I'm gonna leave you a link where you can download brush tips, which is very important for smoke, of course. It's a colleague of mine, a very good photographer and editor. I'm gonna leave you the link to his Instagram page and YouTube page, and I've been using his smoke brushes for a while now, and I have my own. I made some brushes for myself, but I'm not gonna show you that process or how to do it. It's just simple to do it like this. Eventually, I'm gonna make my brushes available for a download, but for now, for the sake of the tutorial, we're just gonna use these ones, and it's pretty simple actually. So you have your new layer. You're gonna select the brush. I selected this one. I feel it's an appropriate brush. I'm gonna lower the opacity to, let's say, 20%. I'm gonna use the white brush. Let's see, yeah, that would be good. And I'm gonna bring the flow down to, let's say, 75. Bring the opacity back to 30. And I'm gonna put the smoke behind the car, here and maybe here and around. And I'm gonna show you how to make that smoke look more realistic. Alright, so just click. No, it's too light. 43. say it's gonna look good here. Repeat that here and in here. So I'm gonna leave the smoke here and I'm gonna make a mask. I'm gonna switch this to black mask, a black brush, and I'm gonna remove all the smoke that is on the car, so I can leave it behind the car. Bring the opacity and flow up, and remove the smoke from the car. Like that. I don't want to have it on the shadow either. Just a little bit. It's too high up. Alright. So that should be it. So it's just a little bit behind the car. Sometimes what I do is I use a gradient tool. I set it up to, I think it was reflected. No, it's just, yeah. It's the first selection here, linear gradient. I set it to black, and I use it on the mask. But in this case, I'm not gonna do that because I actually did when I was applying the smoke, I actually set it up perfectly, the flow and opacity, so there's no need for the gradient tool. Alright, we can name this layer now smoke. There you go. Next thing, and might be the last thing for the edit, will be adding a LUT. What I did is I purchased a LUT package, and I'm gonna leave you a link. It's $25. It's a very nice page, and you get a bunch of LUTs. And by LUTs is, I used to use Mo's LUTs a lot, but then I downloaded this package, which he actually posted a link, and this is how many LUTs I have right now. And honestly, I don't know. It's always difficult to pick one, but I'll show you. I'll show you why. So you click on the color lookup and go here, color lookup, and you come here, 3D LUT file. You set it up to, let's say, 30%. And you select something. Let's say this one. No. Maybe a bit warmer. This one is kind of cool. No. This one's not bad. I like this one. And bring down the opacity to 24%. 22. There you go. Even makes the smoke pop a little bit more. Done. What I'm gonna do as well is, as you can see, these the tri-bar, it annoys the hell out of me. So I mean, I like the tri-bar, I don't like the color. So what I'm gonna do is remove the yellow color here. I hate it, so I'm gonna use the sponge tool. You're gonna adjust the size of it and set the mode to desaturate. I'm going to zoom it in, and I'm literally going to desaturate the ugly yellow color here. You have to come to your main layer, which in this case is called cleanup, and you're just going to remove the yellow color from the lights, whatever they're called. I really don't like this yellow color here, so this is something I always do until I don't switch this to LEDs. There you go. Alright, that's done. That looks good. So far the whole photo looks solid. So I'm gonna put this on one single layer, the whole thing. So again, Control Alt Shift E, and then you get a base layer too. From here, one more thing that I usually do is I highlight some things on the car by using 50% gray and overlay. So what you're gonna do is add another layer. You're gonna go to Edit and Fill with 50% gray, and then you're gonna set the blend mode to overlay. You're gonna select the brush tool. You're gonna set it to white and opacity to, let's say, 10%. 11. And I'm just gonna highlight. I'm just gonna brush the highlights on the car. For example, let's say the letter M on the tire. I'm not gonna be touching the black area. I'm just gonna be touching the white area. So you're just gonna make this a little bit brighter. You don't have to overdo it, just to bring some attention to it. For example, a Michelin guy. I'm going to do the same thing with the dark areas. So switch the brush to black and do the same thing with the black areas. So I know this doesn't look like a significant change, but trust me, when you do this on your whole car, it makes a huge difference. So let's do the same thing for, let's say, I'm just going to give you an example. I'm going to go through this all. I'm just going to give you examples. Right. Essentially, this is like bringing up the exposure of certain parts. Let's say wheels as well a little bit. Just the white areas, right? Maybe the tire a little bit. Same thing in the back. Right over here. This, I'm going to switch to black. There you go. It's not too much, right? Switch to white. Just making some small details pop. In the end, it's very important when you see the finished product. Let's do this here. I think it's called dodging and burning. Everyone has a different method. Oops. You can use dodge and burn tools. I just like to use 50% gray. I'm not sure why, but I think that's fine. Yeah. That's what we did. Alright. I think that's it. Maybe a little bit of shadow. And white for this area where the sun is. Make it a little bit brighter. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think it looks good. Maybe we could no, I don't want to remove the skyscrapers. I could clone this out, but I don't think it's a distraction. I mean, it's a low profile shot, so it's alright. There you go. I think that's it. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you guys like this. And I'm gonna post some more videos for sure. Please like it, subscribe, comment, let me know what you like, what you didn't like. You can complain, you can hate, it's all the same to me. I hope I helped you in some way. Thank you very much.